Oh, hi, everyone. It's Matt Kramer with allthingsinsights.com. And we are here on day one of TMRE, the market research event. We are here at the Qualtrics Engagement Zone with Ali Henriques, Executive Director of Qualtrics Edge. Thank you so much for coming on and talking a little bit with us today.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Well, thank you. Um, you know, One of the things we wanted to talk about was the market research trends report that Qualtrics puts out. How many years has it been going?
Roughly every other year for about 6 years
About
now.
6 years. Wow. And this is a pretty comprehensive landmark study just about threats, opportunities, their market research professionals' concerns. Just tell us a little bit more about the study. What I know it doesn't come out till November, but what can you share with us?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with just a little baselining of the methodology. So it's over 3,000 global market researchers that we field the study to each year. I think it's 16 different countries, 15 different industries are represented, and we're targeting specifically those insights professionals who have decision-making authority within their organizations around providers, budget, and how the decisions are made. So that's the kind of baseline for the study. Each year, we've of course had to evolve it, right? As this, even just looking at the showroom here, our industry is evolving, and so we had to fold in new AI questions. And this year, we had to fold in new agentic questions. And so, trendability is a little bit challenged, right? With so much change happening, which is great. But there are some core kind of KPIs that we track year on year and have done so for about 4 years of the 6. So things like, how has demand for your research within your organization changed over the course of the past year? Budgets, of course. What is the kind of shift that's happening, if any? A couple of others around impact of the insights within your organization. So some trending KPIs, but also some fresh content each year.
Wow. And, that brings up so many themes that are here at the show. Like, for instance, the doing with less resources. I mean, that's something that really strikes a chord with a lot of market research people. Just lack of budgets or lack of resources, lack of technology and tools. What, is that an opportunity? To develop something more in the industry?
Yeah. So here's what's interesting about this year's report. And I know the full thing will be released in the next couple of weeks, but we ask a question and have done so for the past couple of years around what are the top challenges that you face within your organization. And as you'd expect, and as you're articulating, right, many of the top results are something to do with budget constraints, vendor costs increasing, something along those lines, right? What we saw this year was actually a shift away from those as top challenges and towards AI outpacing my team's ability. So that's a big shift for us this year. Back to the KPIs I was referencing earlier, budgets are staying flat for the most part from what we're seeing in this data. That's the largest proportion. Of course, on either end, you've got some budgets that are slightly increasing and some budgets that are retracting. But I think this it's certainly on our minds, right? This notion of AI potentially replacing our jobs and at a bare minimum kind of threatening those entry-level positions across any industry. So we're starting to see that emerging. However, we do ask, and have done so since AI has been a topic, we do ask about job security. So we ask the participants to rate how confident they feel about their own job longevity. And that stat has stayed about 90 to 92% feeling confident about their job security. But something's happening kind of beneath the surface here, right? If we see challenges emerging around AI outpacing our team's abilities.
Yeah, there's that fear factor, but then on the flip side, is the industry getting more used to using AI as a tool, or just part of the researcher's toolkit?
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it. I was actually just chatting with a client earlier about that very same thing. So we are seeing that as well. So we asked explicitly this year, we asked participants to kind of plot themselves along an adoption curve, right? Are you traditional, not using AI at all? Are you using kind of AI assistance in certain tasks and phases of your research workflow? Synthetic adoption, conversational, and agentic. And so what we see, looking at it that way, we are largely in the AI assisted phase of this adoption curve. I'm talking like 65% of the participants indicated as such. Synthetic adoption used within the past 3 to 6 months was about 40% and change, conversational about a quarter, and agentic about 15%. So yeah, we're absolutely turning to these tools to help us with task and workflow efficiency mostly. And another trend we saw in this year's report is a shift away from general purpose LLMs to AI tooling within embedded within our research platforms. So that paradigm flip-flops year over year, whereas last year we were dabbling in this AI assistance with the likes of ChatGPT, improving headlines, summarizing open ends, things of that nature, cleaning the data potentially. This year it's flipped entirely to what we see again in this room, right? A lot of the AI-powered solutions from partners. So that's another kind of shift in how we're thinking about it.
I mean, Qualtrics, I mean, what do you see, speaking of these trends, one trend at the show I see a lot of is qual at scale, this idea of qualitative research being assisted with AI. I mean, do you feel that's something that's kind of bubbling under the surface now?
It is. So we certainly saw that last year, that particularly because of COVID, right? All of our in-person methodologies had to shift online. And so this notion of remote qual, just we became more comfortable with it, right? In the absence of in-person. And now we're seeing AI assistance, again, showing up there in terms of moderation, even recruitment, analysis, of course. Features and tools that we, as well as so many of the other providers on this floor, also offer. And so I do personally believe that qual's kind of having its moment, right? When we're challenged with fraud and bots in our third-party panels. There is the emergence of synthetic data, which means we are going to have to be extra particular about when we invest in human intelligence, right? And so qual is a great way to do that. A lot of synthetic providers train their data exclusively on qualitative transcripts because there's just such rich context that you can't get from quant data. So absolutely seeing qual having its moment.
It really does. I mean, there's a lot of sessions at TMRE for that, and some on synthetic data. And just what are some of your takeaways from the show so far? Any other trends that you see in the
Yeah.
agenda?
I had the pleasure of attending the executive retreat yesterday. So spent some really quality time with 40 plus phenomenal brands, client side researchers. It was illuminating just hearing what we're kind of all up against, right? I consider myself, I manage a team of about 200 researchers inside of Qualtrics. And so just like those clients, right, we can all kind of relate to what we're dealing with, right? As the market changes and evolves. And so my takeaways really are born from that. This morning's been a bit lighter so far. And it's really one of struggle. And we see this in the MR trends data as well. There's this kind of mounting tension between leaders and ICs with how to embrace this new technology and make it work for us. And so in the data, we see great divides between the benefits of AI, particularly completely reinventing or reimagining our workflows, right? You see the charts quite literally, halved between leaders and ICs, making our teams a great deal more efficient, things of that nature. And I heard it in the room yesterday, right? These are the leaders who are feeling the pressure to embrace AI and ideally, right, as profitable companies, right, return savings by way of efficiency back to the business, but it's just not happening at the pace that I think we all thought it might. And so there's some just general kind of unease, right, in the room around how to get started and how to do so as good stewards of objectivity and and trust that we've earned as researchers kind of in our capacities.
Wow, no, that's a great rundown of the executive retreat from yesterday. And just one last question. I mean, the next year of insights, that's the theme of the show. I mean, what obviously we're talking a lot about AI, but what maybe more specifically, I mean, what do you see as the next era?
Yeah. I really do believe it starts with synthetic. Synthetic is our first step into embracing AI. I'll use my favorite personal analogy as a researcher myself. I like to keep my hands on the steering wheel, right? I want to influence and control many aspects of my research. So right now with synthetic, I control the design. I can agonize over every question and how it's framed and how it's worded and the response options. I'm letting go of control a little bit with data collection, right? Considering synthetic as a new tool in my toolkit, if you will, not replacing humans, I will still always need human participants. But then my hands are back on the steering wheel for the analysis and reporting. Once we've got the trust and confidence in this synthetic data as a powerful new tool, we can start to kind of step into conversational. And this is baby agentic, in my opinion. And so you start to see a lot of that here too. Synthetic personas are a great way to kind of engage with your data in different ways. But has to be rooted in a repository where the synthetic data is being collected and captured that we have a high degree of confidence in. So we'll start to see more conversational applications, which mean we are maybe no longer agonizing over the questions and how they're worded, and maybe a bit more focused on our prompt or how we structure our research question, but still getting to the same, what we can't let go of, the same kind of level of detail and rigor that we have with our answers and what we deliver ultimately back to our stakeholders.
Well, Ali, this has been a great conversation. Speaking of conversational, and between two humans, not two AIs. And we really appreciate the time here at TMRE. We hope you have a great rest of the show. And thank you so much, Ali from Qualtrics.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.